Hello everyone, this is Gary from Fantastic Fundas, and in this lecture we are going to study about the Council of Ministers. We are actually studying the Union Executive, and Union Executive has 5 parts, okay? A few of which we have done. There is President and Vice President, we are done with this. Now we are doing Council of Minister. We'll also do Attorney General of India, and then we'll also do about the Comptroller Auditor General India. Let me just write it again: Comptroller and Auditor General of India. So now we'll begin with this lecture with the Council of Ministers today. Okay. So the Council of Ministers, basically this means, what do you understand by this term Council of Ministers? There is a parliament, okay, this is the parliament, right? And who sit in this? There are MPs in it. These are known as the members of parliament. It has 2 parts, like one part is the Rajya Sabha, other part is the Lok Sabha, right? Rajya Sabha, this is the upper house, okay, upper house, and Lok Sabha, this is the lower house, okay. This is how it is. Now minister is one, like there are various portfolios, okay. You must have heard of Minister of Environment, Minister of this, Minister of Law, Minister of Foreign Affairs, that ways, okay. So those are ministers, and all the ministers put together, they make the Council of Minister, okay, Council of Minister. That is how it is, right? Now these ministers are at 3 level in India. There is at the topmost ministers, like Smriti Irani is there. She is the Minister of HRD, Human Resource Development. So she is the cabinet minister, okay. And then there is a Minister of State also, Minister of State. These are state ministers. They are lower in hierarchy than the cabinet ministers, okay. And they cannot attend all the meetings of the cabinet. That is their problem, okay. And if the Council of Ministers is this, the cabinet ministers are these many only in that, right? Then there are Minister of State, and then there are some deputy ministers also, okay. That is how the ministers exist in India, right? And India has a cabinet form of government. This structure of the ministers, where the member of the executive, they come and form the ministries, okay. Because in India, legislature, people from legislature act as the executive only. That is why this is how it. Obviously there are many other executive things happening, okay. So we'll just clear this, and now I will tell you that I'd like to talk to you about Article 74. Why? I'll just tell you, okay. Because Article 74 says, it talks about there shall be Council of Minister to aid and advise the President of India. Aid and advise President of India, okay. So with it also says that the Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister at the head, as the head, okay. If you open your bare acts and read article number 74, it says that there shall be a Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister to at the head to aid and advise the President, okay. So it says, it uses the word there shall be, shall. It is that this shows there has to be, it is compulsory, okay. Shall means it is there, that means it is always there, that the President always will continuously have a cabinet, a Council of Ministers with him, which to obviously aid and advise him, okay. And President has to act, okay. It also further reads, if you read Article 74, it says that President shall act, who shall in exercise of his function act in accordance with such advice, okay. So these people over here, the Council of Minister, which shall be there, it must give some advice to the President, and then President has to follow this advice, okay. This is written in the Article 74 clause 1, right. And then they actually, who's having the real executive power in these people. President is the executive head. He takes the final, he delivers the final call. But real executive power is with these people, because this way, this advice to the President, it is binding on the President, okay. This is important thing, it is binding on the President, right. But then before I tell you that it is binding, you have to understand, then there, if you read 74 clause 1 further, it says that provided, provided, that means there is a proviso clause, okay, which says that the President may send that particular advice, this advice which has been given by Council of Ministers to President, he may send it back to the Council of Ministers for reconsideration, okay. But if Council of Ministers gives this advice back to the President, then he has to agree to it, right. He then cannot resend it, okay. right? This is what is written in 74 clause 1. Okay, so this is how it is going. Now further in this, you have to understand that, see, this is binding, okay, this advice, but then there are few exceptions. We have already talked that in the lecture of the president's powers, where I talked to you about the discretionary powers of the president. Okay, for example, one is this proviso clause only, where he can send it back. That is one, right? If you remember that I talked about so many. For example, seeking the report from the prime minister under article 78, we'll discuss today. Encourage them, warn them. Please go back to that lecture, and you can then have proper detail on it. Okay, appointment of a, I mean, there were so many. Veto power is there, right? Suspensive veto, pocket veto, where he need not really consult the council of ministers, okay, to dissolve the assembly or not to dissolve, that ways. Okay, so in case, suppose there is a caretaker government, then caretaker government can only take important policy decisions, right? But what are important policy decisions? I mean, what is important policy decision? This thing, right? So this is also decided by the president. So there are so many things which may, at the discretionary power of the president, they obviously are not covered under this clause in this method. Okay, now I can give you a few examples where the president actually sent back the advice of the council of ministers. Okay, for example, if you okay, let me just put it in on the new page. Yeah. So, for example, it was President Jal Singh was there. Okay, President Jal Singh was there, right? Now, this president, he sent back that Indian Postal Amendment Bill. Okay, Postal Amendment Bill, and that was in 1987, right? So that is like one of the examples of it, right? Similarly, like there was President K.R. Narayanan. Okay, K.R. Narayanan. Okay, so what is about him? He quite often actually used this power more than once, right? In fact, like he sent back this advice regarding imposition of president rule under Article 356 in Bihar and in UP, right? He did this in 1997, 1998. He did, so twice he did that, right? And similarly, like it too so happened in 2006 also, when President Kalam, okay, President Abdul Kalam, he referred back this Office of Prophet Bill for reconsideration. Okay, that was in 2006, right? So there have been like few instances where such a thing has happened, that this was sent back, right? So now okay, now there is also second clause to article number 74 clause 2, which says that the question whether any and if so what advice was tendered by the minister to president shall not be inquired into any account. That means that whatever advice, okay, was given, the advice that was given by council of ministers, this cannot be questioned. Okay, this cannot be what was this advice? It cannot be inquired into. That is the point. This is given, right? Why this? So to maintain the secrecy. Why do we need secrecy? Because there are so many things which are of national importance, national security के लिए होती हैं. For those things, for better decision making. That is why this has been given over here. Okay. Now, but then suppose there is some information. This advice was given. Okay, this is the advice that that was given by the Council of Ministers to the President. Right now, this advice was based on, let's say, 10 sources, or let's say 5 sources. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? These 5 sources were there. Right? Each book, you can imagine, like there were 5 sources, similar. Right? So that is how it was. So this can be checked by the Supreme Court, right? But it cannot go into details of the final advice that was given. Okay, so that is how it is, right? Now, then there is Article 75. Okay, 75 article deals with the other provisions about as to ministers. Okay, now the appointment, the Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President on the that is given there. So Prime Minister is appointed by the President. It does not mention that who shall be the a person who should be invited to be the Prime Minister. Okay, so I'll discuss this thing in detail regarding Article 75 clause 1 when I do the topic Prime Minister after this topic of Council of Ministers. Let me just finish the Council of Ministers topic first, right? Now, according to law, right, according to this is mentioned there in article number 75 clause 1a, it says that this was by actually this was brought by 91st Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, this was, and it was in 2003. It says that not more than 15% of the total strength of Lok Sabha, that is the maximum number of the Council of Ministers that can be appointed. Okay, suppose the strength of the Lok Sabha is, let's say, only 400, right? So maximum council of ministers that can be appointed as the 60. There can be maximum 60 ministers, 15% of 400. That is how it is, right? Now, can someone who is not an MP be appointed as a minister, or even, let's say, prime minister? Okay, who's not an MP, can he be appointed as a prime minister or any minister? That is the question, right? Now, yes, he can be. Okay, but then the rule is that he must get elected within 6 months from the day he is appointed. Otherwise, obviously, he will be chucked out. Okay, and this is given under the article number 75, clause 5. It says that a minister who for any period of 6 consecutive months is not a member of either house or the parliament shall at expiration of 6 months cease to be a member, cease to be a minister. Okay, so that is how it is, right? He must get elected, right? I can give you example actually. H.D. Deve Gowda, right? H.D. Deve Gowda, he was the prime minister of the country without getting even elected. Okay, and it was upheld by the Supreme Court that nothing wrong in it, it is fine, right? But then, suppose you are minister for 6 months, again then you are appointed for next 6 months without getting elected, without going through the process of election. Supreme Court has held in many cases that this is wrong, this is banned, okay, this is illegal. Why? Because it is undemocratic. Because democracy के अंदर, in democracy, it is the will of the people who elects the minister. We elect the minister, we choose the minister. हम ही तो मिनिस्टर को चुनकर बिठाते हैं भाई. और अगर 6 महीने के बाद आपने फिर से 6 महीने के लिए एक व्यक्ति को मिनिस्टर बना दिया तो वो गलत है, अनडेमोक्रेटिक, हमारे संविधान के विरुद्ध है, गलत है, ठीक है. एंड सेकेंड थिंग इज, इट इज सबवर्जन ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. आप हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को नहीं सप्रेस कर सकते. दैट इज द लॉ. ओके, now what is the tenure of the minister? Okay, suppose this Smriti Irani or any everyone, right? Javadekar is there, so many ministers, all these people, what is the tenure of their term? Okay, their tenure is, this is a very very important, very interesting clause, that now this is there till the council of minister enjoy the confidence of the house. Enjoy confidence of house. What do you mean by confidence of house? That they have the majority in Lok Sabha. Okay, till then they can be council of ministers. Now that is number 1, right? Number 2 is the pleasure of the president. Okay, pleasure of president. Now this is mentioned in the article number 75 clause 2. It says that, okay, let's read. If you have Bare Act, please open 75 clause 2. It says that the minister shall hold office during the pleasure of the president. What do you mean by this pleasure of president? Is it the pleasure means that according to his thought process, his decision, his whims and fancies, उसके मुताबिक president की मर्जी हो. लेकिन in our constitution 99.9% things are not according, when we say pleasure of the president, it means that the on the advice of the council of ministers, because there has to be advice of council of minister. Now what advice of council of minister? That so this thing over here, the advice of the prime minister. Okay, the prime minister gets this thing done. See, and these words, pleasure of the president, also show the individual responsibility of the ministers. Okay, individual responsibility. I mean, see, what is happening, that prime minister can ask the president, do you please remove this person, and then he is removed. Okay, that is how this thing is happening, right? Now there is more to it. So there is actually, what is more is that see, if president moves according to his own will, then obviously he can be impeached also. That the risk is always there. See, I'll tell you, you have to understand this logic in little more detail. Okay, see, no person can be retained as member of cabinet if prime minister says to the president that he should be dismissed. Right now, it is only when members of the cabinet, both in their appointment as well as in matter of their dismissal, are placed under the prime minister. Okay, so that means under prime minister, when there is appointment, and then prime minister ke under prime minister only we also have the removal of the council of minister. When this thing happens, only then, we can have idea of collective responsibility. Otherwise, how will there be collective responsibility? That is the question. There will be problem, right? Because president then will take care of things on his own. There cannot be collective responsibility. See, so I can give you example, right? This is what actually I'm giving you an example from the Constituent Assembly debates. Okay, this is what like Dr. Ambedkar, right? He said he was chairman of drafting committee of the Constitution of the Constituent Assembly. So he said, suppose there is no prime minister. Let's suppose for a while. Okay, what will happen? Now this will mean that all the ministers are under the control of president. So minister are under control of president. If there is no prime minister and the president is there, so ministers will be under control of president. Now it would be then possible that the president, who is not really the head of the cabinet, who is not elected by the people, he deals with each minister separately, and this will lead to the problem, and this will lead to disruption of work. Okay, he will deal with each minister individually, right? And in fact, we learned this thing from Britishers also. In British cabinet, this had happened, right? So from their experience, we learned that we must have, this thing, the concept of prime minister, appointing and removing. Though president is doing it, but he's doing on the advice of the prime minister. Okay, so prime minister is really the keystone of the arc of the cabinet. Okay, he's the keystone of the arc of the cabinet. And unless and until we create an office, right, with statutory authority to nominate and dismiss ministers, there can be no collective responsibility, right? This is what Ambedkar said, right? Now this over here it clearly means that what Ambedkar was really saying, that he had this power of appointing the ministers. Okay, the prime minister shall have the power of appointment and of the removal of the minister. This is what he was suggesting. And finally, regarding the player of the president, I can tell you one more thing, right? Regarding the player of the president, I would like to tell you that suppose the Lok Sabha is dissolved, then you cannot say that the president is player in appointing the minister. Even if Lok Sabha is dissolved, so it is the player of the president and let's appoint anyone. No, it doesn't work like that. Of course there has to be majority, of course there has to be government, otherwise how will there be any any minister even? Okay, so this is how it goes, right? And then I was talking to you about the advice of the Council of Ministers. Yeah, so there's something more to add to it regarding the advice of the Council of Ministers. See, president either is acting directly, right? We know this, and then or he is acting through his subordinate officers. Okay, so when he's acting directly, he is acting directly under the advice of the Council of the Minister. And such advice, this advice that was given to him by the Council of Ministers, this may be given by only one minister, okay, or it may be given by all the ministers put together. That is how it is, right? And such advice is binding, right? As I told you, that word shall has been used in the Constitution. This is what we have already talked, right? Now, but this, please understand why I'm mentioning this thing again, that this provision of that there shall be, president shall follow this advice and president shall have Council of Ministers, all this is fine, but all the advice can be merely directory in nature. Now suppose the president doesn't follow this advice, what will happen? You will go to court against the president. This is what you can do. Okay, you went to court, very good, very nice, but when you go to court, it will say, sir, president is protected under Article 361. We have already done this under the privileges, right? And then you cannot sue him. And because he cannot be sued, because he has done some work in his official capacity. So even if he did not follow, what can we do? Go and enjoy, right? Do not disturb us. This is what they will say. So please understand that even under Article 74 clause 2, what advice was given, this cannot be challenged. And if this cannot be challenged, that what advice was given, how will it be decided that the advice by the president was followed or not? So this means, so my question is there no way of really enforcing this provision, or no way of enforcing Article number 74 clause 1? There is no way, because if president flouts this article, there is just no method. Well, there is no direct method of doing it, but then there is something called process of impeachment, and we have already done it, how to impeach the president. So president is always under threat of impeachment. That is like number one. That is the biggest thing that is there. That is how you are controlling the president. that is how he will have to follow the advice. Okay, and then okay, so because that all that opinion cannot be challenged in court, okay, that I've already talked to you. Then there is a concept of collective responsibility. I'd like to deliberate a little more on this collective responsibility. At first I just gave you the introduction of all the terms. Now I am going into little detail of all the terms. Okay, so now we are talking about the collective responsibility. What do you mean by this word collective responsibility? See, I'm telling you few things which you will not find in most of the books, okay, and these are the things nobody tells you anywhere. Please, a lot of hard work has gone into it. Anyway, right, let's come back to the topic. So collective responsibility, it has like multiple meanings. Actually, there are two meanings I can think of the word collective responsibility. The first meaning is it is related, it's the first okay, let me just put it here, that that all members of the government, right, all members of the government, they are unanimous. Okay, unanimous in what? They are unanimous, they all are together, they एक साथ हैं, एकता है उन सब में किस चीज को लेके? Unanimous in support of the governmental policies. Okay, and they would also show this unanimity while they on the public occasions, right, on public occasions. This is the collective responsibility. Although at the time of the formulation of the policy they might have been critical. Okay, now suppose anyone criticizes the government policy, so it is like I am criticizing myself. So that is how collective responsibility is. If one minister criticizes, every whole cabinet is criticizing itself. That is how it will be read. Okay, that is how the collective responsibility comes on, right? And the second meaning, it is like this, that that any ministers, okay, who speak against the policies, or they also in the favor of the policies, their ministers are also personally, okay, personally and morally responsible for its success and failure. Okay, so the ministers who spoke for or against a policy, they are personally and morally responsible for the success. Okay, now this particular meaning, right, now this is not self-explanatory, right? That it was made to establish basically this principle was made to establish something. Okay, what was that? Right, this arrow should be in the opposite direction, right? This should be here, right? So this was per se, it doesn't show that it is a collective responsibility, but I'll show you how even the personal and moral responsibility is part of this collective responsibility. It is, see, suppose in spite of the fact that the council is collectively responsible, we know this thing, that the council is responsible to the House of People. Okay, but there can be occasions when a minister can be censored individually. Okay, if he or any of his officers, they make some blunder or they act opposite to the law. Okay, then this can be done, and this is just to emphasize on the part that that even this is part of the once they are censored, they are personally and then morally responsible for their own acts. Okay, and this is part of collective responsibility. This is what was said by the Supreme Court in a case. Okay, these are not my words that I'm sharing with you, these are the words of the Supreme Court. Okay, now after this there is more to collective responsibility. So collective council of ministers, they're collectively responsible to whom? That is the question now. The collective responsibility is to the Lok Sabha. Okay, this is the question that has been asked. Some people say this responsibility is to Rajya Sabha or Parliament. No, it is to the Lok Sabha. Okay, and suppose there is a minister, he doesn't want to protect the council of ministers, doesn't want to defend. What will he do? He has only one choice. He can go home and relax. Okay, have fun, do swimming and resign. You need not sit in Parliament, right? Now, even if the decision is regarding one particular ministry, okay, so there is some decision of the environment, for environment and forest, or let's say any other ministry, MEA, etc., then the whole of the council of minister, they have to defend it. It's not that only one of the other council of member, they go and even go and against this person. They have to defend it. They swim and they sink together. Okay, that is how it moves. And all ministers, they stand and fall together, right? Why do we have this principle? Because this principle only will ensure that the whole cabinet works as a team. And why do we want? Because so that there is proper decision making. Why do we want them to work as a team? There is proper decision making, and once this is there, then there is the growth of the nation, there is the development of the nation, and once that is there, we have all our preambular values achieved. That is how your answer should be. You have to reach preamble somehow, okay, in your mains paper. That will be very good if you can do this in just half a line or one line. It's not that you have to write an essay on it, just one line would be enough, okay. So that is how it is, okay. So this team is there, and if you cannot do this, please go and resign. If you want to criticize, go and resign. If you cannot stand as with the team, you do not agree with the team, then you can go leave. That is how it is, okay. And so, then there is one more term which has come into play recently, and this just might be asked in your paper, I feel, because of the corruption these days. This is known as the misfeasance. Misfeasance means misuse of your office for the gains which were not intended to be by that office, okay. Misuse of office, okay. So see, it is the malicious abuse of power, right? It is deliberate maladministration whenever there is misuse of power, okay. What is this? This is a deliberate maladministration, okay. Now see, now this is unlawful, okay. Now this one minister does it, either he's defended or he's chucked out, right? He has to resign. Then that is how it goes if it is proved, right? For example, so many times there are accusations against the minister, many of them don't even resign. Then the opposition keeps on crying, please resign, do this, do that, vote of no confidence, or urgent motion vote is there, or some kind of various resolutions keep on moving. So those things do happen. That is not the topic here, right? So that is how it goes. Now but please understand that even for whatever the junior is doing, okay, the minister is responsible, whether it was done by any of his immediate subordinates, or which are generally the civil servants, or whether it was done by himself, right? The ministry is responsible whether it is done by the civil servant or whomsoever, the minister himself, okay. Officials, obviously, the civil servant that are there, they cannot go and publicly defend themselves. That is the given in the All India Service rules, that you need not be highlighted in public. You just do your work and just move on, okay. Karam kijiye aur nadi mein bahaiye. That is the rule with the IS officers. You have to be quietly doing all your work, right? Now, but minister can't run away from his responsibility. Any IS officer under his authority, and he does some work illegal which was in the domain of the ministry, then the person who is the IS officer, for his conduct, the minister would be liable, okay, responsible in fact. And this particular issue became very popular, which is known as the Mundra affair, okay. This is a very, very famous case. Now I am not mentioning many cases in this topic, but this is very prominent case. That is why I am mentioning this. Okay, in this, what happened, that there was some finance secretary and he did some dealing which was illegal. And then there was an inquiry, okay, there was finance secretary, he did some illegal thing, and then there was inquiry, and inquiry it was held that the minister is responsible because he had full autonomy on this, this particular IS officer was within the sphere of his authority, right? So that is why his responsibility exists, okay. So now that is all about the Council of Ministers. If you have any question, you can leave in the comment section, right? Now after this, I would like to talk to you about the Prime Minister of India. So regarding the Prime Minister, first question that arises, who will be the Prime Minister of India? Who will be Prime Minister? Because our constitution, the Article 75 clause 1 says the Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President, but nowhere it is written that who shall be invited. See, normally what happens that President invites that person to be the Prime Minister who has the support of the party. So someone who has support of party, okay, that is like one, right? Or any coalition, okay, and who is expected, which party who is expected to have majority, obviously that party. Now they will not invite minority party to the parliament, okay. Now after this, like obviously this, I mean to the House of the People, obviously it is for that only, right? Now it is the leader of the majority party, okay, and circumstances but then can exist under which the President may have to use his personal judgment, okay. And what are those circumstances when he has to use his personal judgment? I'll just tell you those. Okay, so the way he has to use personal judgment is like when the Prime Minister in office is already there and the Prime Minister dies, or the prime minister suddenly resigns, and then there is no future prime minister or future person of good leadership, or there is no leader of the party, or and there is no future leader, okay, or there are two parties now which are claiming majority, okay, because of all this, right? So or there is no recognized leader, there is no future leader, as I told you. So in that case the president will use his discretion, but again then the purpose, on the basis of which he will choose, he cannot go beyond constitution. So his purpose would be the furtherance of the democracy. So he will choose that person who he really thinks that can prove it, number one. Number two, that person he will have to not do it on the basis of personal biasness, okay. That is how it is going. Now the prime minister has been described by, there's a person called Lord Jennings, okay, Jennings. Now he is described prime minister as the keystone of the constitution. Keystone, I hope you understand the word keystone, right? Keystone is the most important stone of the building, right? Suppose this is the building over here, right? This is made up of many stones, and suppose this stone, this particular stone over here, this one, right? This one. Now if this falls, then the building will collapse. The same way, the prime minister is the keystone of the constitution. सबसे important पत्थर है वो, he is the keystone of the cabinet arc. Now if he resigns, obviously the whole of the council of minister has to resign, right? And if he dies, even then normally if a new prime minister is not appointed, right? Now he is the connecting link between the cabinet and the president, right? So see, location is this like this, right? There's the president, okay, and this is the cabinet, and this is the parliament. Okay, all these are connected to each other by the force of prime minister. He is the bond between all these, okay. For the science students, they'll better appreciate it. He is the bond between the prime minister and the cabinet and the parliament, right? This is how it is, right? Now in Article 78, it has been mentioned that he has to communicate all the decisions of the Council of Ministers to the President. So there is a duty on the Prime Minister, okay, Council of Minister decisions to the President. So it is a duty, okay, on the Prime Minister that he should tell the President about all these happening. This is mentioned under 78. If you have Bear Act, you can read that it shall be the duty of the Prime Minister. There have been given 3 duties in this article, okay. Very important. These 3 duties can come in your mains and prelim paper. To communicate to the President all decision of the Council of Ministers, as I told you, okay. It's there relating to the, obviously relating to what? Relating to the administration of the affairs of union and proposal for legislation. That means what is happening in the administration and what kind of legislation they are going to bring, that is sent to the President. He has to give the report, okay, number 1. Number 2, President might call for these reports or these same things. So even then Prime Minister has to give, if President himself calls for it. And then if President wants this to happen, suppose there is some decision is taken by a single minister, okay, some decision is taken by single minister, and President want that whole of the Council of Ministers should consider it, right? Then President can submit that decision for the consideration whole of the Council of Ministers, okay. Obviously that must not have been discussed by the Council earlier, right? Now this is all under the article number 78, right? Now there's just one or two more important things about the Prime Minister. As such, see, the appointment, though Constitution gives unfettered powers to the President regarding the appointment of Prime Minister, right? But reality is that, as I told you, that was about the earlier topic I'm talking about regarding the appointment of the Prime Minister. That there have all their customs and there are conventions, okay. Then there is constitutional values, constitutional ethos. Please use these words in your answer, okay. There's something like constitutional values, constitutional ethos. These words add, make answer a quality answer, okay. They make it better looking, better sounding, better meaning answer. That is how it goes, okay. And then even the Rajya Sabha member can become the Prime Minister of India. Manmohan Singh was there, okay. And then okay, these days I have heard, like, there are a lot of states have these posts called Deputy Prime Minister or Deputy Chief Minister. Is it a constitutional post? No, it is not. It is just like, it is the ordinary post, okay, just like any other normal ordinary minister. Okay, he is not any special minister, he's just an ordinary minister. And then please understand, and he's minister when he holds any portfolio. By portfolio I mean some charge, like minister of environment, minister of tribal affair, right, minister of panchayati raj, that ways. Okay, now otherwise this deputy prime minister has no constitutional significance. Okay, you have to please write this, no constitutional significance. Or in other words, okay, so if I have to say in other words, it's just a normal authority, nothing else. Okay, so that is all about the prime minister. Now we are left with two topics from the executive, right? One is the attorney general, and then there is the comptroller and auditor general, right? And we are done with the three parts of the council of ministers already, which include your prime minister, your council of minister, and those are like one only. Okay, there is council of minister, and then president and vice president. We are done with this, and when this is done, your executive, your central executive will get over, and after that I will teach you about the governor. Okay, why governor? Because we have done the president. I would just like to compare over there, right? That is how it will move. Okay, in the next lecture we'll finish this. So that was all about today's lecture, and now just wanted to make two very important announcements. And the first thing is that I just wanted to thank you all whosoever you have shared my videos on various social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, everywhere. Thank you so much from my heart, and it is my humble request that you please keep on sharing this video in future also. जिन्होंने आज तक नहीं share की, if you really like the video, it's my humble request, please share it with others. That gives me encouragement to make better videos and ज़्यादा videos, and I can cover ज़्यादा subject अगर आप इस वीडियो को share करते हैं. And second thing is that this is for your own benefit. If you really like these videos and you want that updates about the new videos should come into your mailbox, you can subscribe to us. You can see the subscribe button over here. You can click on us and videos will come right into your email box. आप हमें subscribe कर सकते हैं. अगर ऐसा करते हैं तो videos directly आपके mail box में आ जाएंगी. बस इतना ही कहना है. That is all, and thank you for watching the videos.